Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Today's video is regarding the comparison between Richard Allen and Jose Ibarra, the killer of Laken Riley, the nursing student at the University of Georgia. Now, Laken Riley was killed by Jose Ibarra, who seems to be somebody who was obsessed, had like a sexual, desire that he couldn't control. And I think that's exactly who Richard Allen was, or is. He even described himself as that, as being like addicted to sex. He was just, overwhelmed with it. And I think there's a difference in terms of, I think Jose Ibarra is somebody who is either currently a serial killer or was going to become one. And you could tell by his demeanor, where he's basically almost a sociopath, had no emotions whatsoever. At trial, had the same damn face on the entire time. I think he kept that same face when he was attacking Laken Riley. But however, I think that, Richard Allen, or Ricky, as people like to call him, is he's also addicted to sex, but I think he had some remorse. Once he killed the girls to preserve his identity and protect himself, as he admitted, he said he killed the girls out of selfishness to protect himself. He felt bad about it. It ate away at him, and I think that's when he found God. He wanted to confess to God and his family members to unburden himself from the feelings that he had. So I think that's the difference there, but I think the same underlying obsession that compelled them to attack is similar. Now, if you watch this guy is absolutely crazy. So if you look at this right here, this is Jose Ibarra. He's walking around and he's by a bus stop, and basically if you take a look at a map, the bus stop is right here. He's walking by, and he initially tries to target another female inside of this last unit in this apartment right here. He tried to open her door a few different times, knocked on it, and he was trying to get in there. And there were even people moving and milling about at times, and he was still focused, but he made sure to not do it when there was too many people around. So when you look at this, he's walking around, and eventually, this is like 6:54 in the morning, and it makes you wonder the similarities between Richard Allen and Jose Ibarra in terms of this guy was out there hunting for a victim. Now, we know that in the Abby and Libby case with Richard Allen, that the law enforcement was not able to find a connection between Keegan Kline, for example, and law enforcement always believed that he was going to the trails and Abby and Libby were targeted. Now, does targeted mean that they were targeted after he was there or prior to going there? A question that we still need to have answered is, did Richard Allen know that Abby and Libby were going to be there? And did he target them? And perhaps after all his appeals are over, etc., and it's done for Richard Allen, he might come forward with more information to cut a deal in terms of how he's treated and better accommodations in prison. But I guess we still need to have an answer for that. But they both appear, if you go with the narrative that they went there to hunt, it appears that Jose Ibarra is doing the same thing. He's trying to get into this unit right over here, and he tries multiple times. Let's move it over. See right here, he walks by initially, and behind the building, I guess there's a window into her apartment. So maybe he was watching that, because multiple times he walked back and around, and he's hunting, waiting for an opportunity. And let's move it forward. And there he is. Look at this guy. He's literally opening the door. You can see it bigger down here, and it's enhanced down in the right-hand corner. But look at, he's opening up the screen door, and he's trying to get in somehow. And he's got a cup in his hand. You can almost call that the same as the bullet that Richard Allen left at the crime scene. Now that cup had Ibarra's DNA on it near the crime scene, but not at the crime scene. But there was almost no DNA at all that they recovered at the crime scene. Now, I guess a lot of these YouTube defense attorneys and YouTubers should go out and try to defend this guy. I mean, how do we really know that it was Jose Ibarra? Well, he's on camera multiple times stalking, and he's trying to get in to this house or apartment right here. And you'll see he comes over, and I think he tries again, but he definitely goes around there and then watches. So look how many times he's walking around. So you kind of think of Richard Allen when he was at the bridge. He walks over, he gets to the Freedom Bridge, and he goes all the way to the Monenhigh Bridge. And while he's there, was Betsy Blair going to be perhaps like this person in this unit where she just didn't fall into the trap? There wasn't an opening for Richard Allen, and so he let Betsy Blair walk away? Or was he even following Betsy Blair from a distance? Because if Betsy Blair had done her normal routine where she goes down the 505 trail after going to the Monenhigh Bridge, Richard Allen could have followed her down that trail and assaulted her down there. But this time she didn't do that. But I think Abby and Libby actually distracted him before he was even able to follow her all the way down to that area. So when Abby and Libby passed him, he waited, walked back a little bit, waited and watched, and then followed Abby and Libby across the bridge. So here is the bridge in the Abby and Libby case. So I think when the bridge guy was here, Betsy Blair turns around and goes this way. It's possible. Somebody mentioned that a while ago, and I didn't think that sounded plausible, but it's become more plausible that he starts following Betsy Blair this direction from a distance, so Betsy Blair isn't aware. Then Abby and Libby pass Betsy Blair, and then he just kind of stands back in this area and watches the progression of what people are doing. And he sees the girls go this direction, and he starts making his way a little bit closer, and then he sees that the girls are crossing the bridge. He says he thought they were 18 years old, but they could have been younger. Then they cross the bridge, and then he follows them down the hill and eventually kills them over in this area and covers them with branches. He sees a white van drive by that only the killer would know. Covered them with branches, and he said he killed them to avoid being identified. It was purely selfish, and I think it ate him away because he had some remorse where Ibarra has none. All right, so let's watch this some more. And this is 709. Ibarra's walking this direction. He's out hunting for a victim. He's waiting for someone to go jogging and maybe perhaps head off to the left and go into the woods. I mean, it's really disturbing. And then he comes back. Here he is off to the left here. And you can see him right there. It's pretty amazing capturing of this camera and how they're able to zoom in and see him moving around. So he came back this direction, and then he makes another attempt at some point to get into this apartment. But right now he's going to walk back behind the apartment again to see if she is getting dressed or what she's doing, the lady that lives in this apartment. And right now he's hiding over in this area. You can see him. He's walking around. He doesn't live in these apartments. Or in this portion anyways. And then right over here, these are a window for the steps that go up to different floors. So let's just move it forward here. You can see him sticking his head out right there, looking, waiting and watching. It's kind of exactly what you would picture Richard Allen doing, waiting and watching, scoping out what's going on. He's trying to protect this area right here. He can't wait to try to get into that apartment. There's too many people starting to build up right now, though, at the bus stop. So he's just kind of waiting and watching them. And we'll just move it forward again. You know, he's still in that area, but look at all these people at the bus stop. And he's still hiding in there. Now the bus takes him away. So once the bus pulls away, then Ibarra now feels like it's safe. So you could say, like, when Betsy Blair walks away, he looks and waits and watches Richard Allen in both directions, and when he sees nobody, he then makes his move. Now in this case, he makes his move at this apartment right here. You'll see when he comes back down in a minute, he tries to get into that apartment, but he's just waiting and looking, and there's nobody around right now. So now he's making his move. He just checked to see if there was anybody at that bus stop anymore. Now he's coming back down, and you'll see him likely just walk right to that door here in a moment. And there he goes. And he walks by again, and I think he's going to walk around and check again. I mean, this guy's like looking through the windows. Now he comes back. They cut the time out there. And this is 7:46 in the morning. Comes back. I'm going to move it forward. Now look, he's trying to get back into that apartment again now that the coast is clear. And he's waiting and waiting and waiting. So that's the second time. I think he even tries a third time to get in there. But then somebody sees him and he ducks. Because there he is. He's back at it again. God, I guess that's the third time. Maybe there's a fourth. That's crazy. Let's see. I guess that makes it maybe even 5 times. Because look at, he was at it again there. And now he's walking back around the building. Now he's back there again. Like that might be the 6th time. And I think he's ringing the doorbell or doing something, trying to stay out of the way, hoping she opens it. And then he'll dart in there and then shut the door really quick. But she never opened it. She was smart enough not to open up that door. So let me move it forward here. He's just standing there for a long time. And now he's back at the door again. And he's staying out of the way of the peephole. And look at, so she comes to the door, and then you'll see him duck down. He's trying to avoid being spotted. See that? He ducks down below the peephole, and he heads off in that direction. So I think at that point is pretty much when he gave up on that. He does walk back around again, but he takes off and goes and waits on the running trails. Now here is the victim, Laken Riley, running. So this is kind of like you might picture Betsy Blair running, but in this case, Betsy Blair would end up being Abby and Libby because his first attempt was in the apartment. So I think that, I mean, to me it feels really similar. Like there's a guy hunting for victims out there, and he wasn't able to, the first one didn't work for him. They didn't fall into his trap, maybe Betsy Blair. And then, I mean, look how brazen this is too, because look at all these people around, and she's jogging, and she takes a left, you'll see up there, and runs onto the jogging trails, and he attacks her, and she fought for 15 minutes, and eventually he killed her by bashing her over the head with stones. So, and those stones were found at the crime scene. But amazingly, they didn't find any DNA at the crime scene, but the surveillance video tells the story. His fingerprint, however, was on the phone, but they didn't find any DNA on her of him. You know, so I guess there was some DNA, like on the styrofoam cup. Apparently, when they found the hat, they didn't find his DNA on it, but it is him, 100%. So there she goes running off in that direction. And if you look at Google Earth, and well, let's just take a look at this. This is Bridge Guy. See, look, kind of similar, right? I mean, coming at him at the end of the bridge. He's coming at the girls, tells them to go down the hill. And in Laken's case, let's just go back over to the scene. Right here, Laken, when she's jogging down the road, she runs down the road like this and then cuts across somewhere up in this area to get on these running trails, and then she runs this direction, and Jose Ibarra had that white cup in his hand was found right there, and she was found killed in the woods over here. First her earbuds were found, and then she was found in the woods. Now they also had I mean, she was strangled, and she was beaten with a rock as well. I mean, absolutely horrendous. Somebody found the earbuds near there, and they also have the footsteps of her on her Fitbit. So they know like where she was, and it was all right in this area right here, and he was trying to attack her for 15 minutes. Then a 911 call came in. There was nobody was able to speak, but she called 911, and you can almost hear him, I believe, hitting her with a stone or a rock at that point, killing her. And he had her mouth covered so you couldn't hear. But then I think he ended up strangling her later to make sure she wasn't alive. And this guy is an absolute monster. I think the only difference between Richard Allen and Jose Ibarra is that he has zero remorse, where I think Richard Allen has some. I believe he allowed Abby to redress herself, and he was maybe going to let her live, but out of selfishness ended up killing her too, because he wanted to protect his own identity. So, well, in the comments section, let me know what you think. But I think it's very, very similar. He was a hunter of victims, and he tried, and eventually, the first one failed, and then he stumbled upon Laken Riley and tried to assault her, but she fought back. And apparently there was no assault that took place, but that was what his intention was. Her shirt was pulled up, etc. Just like in the Richard Allen case, there's no DNA on those girls either, and there's no DNA from Jose Ibarra on his victim. Now, he actually wore gloves. Now, did Richard Allen wear gloves too? We don't know. Did he have a pair to put on after he got there? That would absolutely explain it. The gun also, despite what the defense team wants you to believe regarding one single solitary man acting alone with dexterity, on and on and on and on, how difficult everything is, what Bob Mana called one of the greatest documents in history. It's an absolute joke of a document. A gun is what Richard Allen used to force the girls down the hill. The gun is what Richard Allen used to have the girls undress. The gun was probably influenced, allowing Abby to dress again, and she complied to everything that he was saying. The only time he would have had to physically touch someone would have been when he was moving Libby's body 15 or 20 feet. And by the way, Richard Allen was way stronger back then. I mean, just look at this picture right here. You see Richard Allen and Richard Allen. The guy on the right is Richard Allen. The guy on the left is Richard Allen. That's why they look so similar. Their body structure is exactly the same, but look how much sturdier and stronger Richard Allen was back then, right around 2017. All right, he was a totally different person. The meek-looking waif of a person you see in recent images is just him wanting to look different and being pathetic and make people feel sorry for him. I believe in this case that Richard Allen felt guilty for killing the girls, and then over the years kind of withered away. I often use the Lord of the Rings analogy of the ring to Schmeagol creating Gollum, and in this case the killing of Abby and Libby is the ring, and Richard Allen became somebody totally different over the last 5 years, the 5 years that he waited until he was arrested, and he begged his family to believe him, to unburden himself, but they wouldn't have it. And his attorneys, I think, did him an absolute disservice, and he did the family of Abby and Libby a disservice, because they had to sit through a trial and see the horrific images of the handiwork of Richard Allen. All right, so let me know in the comment section what you think. I think there's quite a few similarities here. Two barbarians hunting for a victim. They both seem to kind of, based on the information that we have, be committed to assaulting somebody that day. They stalked the victim when they were there. They followed them. They attacked. I would say Ibarra's is much more brazen, where easily somebody else could have been running by at that exact time. I believe that Jose Ibarra is a serial killer. And I think that there's other deaths in Venezuela that we just don't know about currently. And he killed Laken Riley. The way that he did it, just sort of, and the look on his face, just no emotions whatsoever. I believe that he is a serial killer, but I don't think Richard Allen would have ever become one. I don't think of him the same way. He seemed to actually have some remorse. Now, that doesn't mean, oh, Gray, you're feeling sorry. No, that's just what I think in the case. I think he's a barbarian, too. Out of his own selfishness, he killed Abby and Libby, and it was sexually motivated, and he's exactly the same as Ibarra. He's just a sociopath killer. All right, so let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you very much for watching. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.